So we're starting with the nervous system. This is an introduction, and I want to start by comparing it to the endocrine system, as they have some key similar functions. So as you probably know, the basic functions of both the nervous system and the endocrine system are regulation, so regulating other body functions. So you've seen this before from earlier in Appendix A in your chapter, in your book. The nervous system is composed of the brain, spinal cord, nerves, and ganglia. We'll get into way more detail on that anatomy. And this is rapid communication. So neurons are able to fire its electrical signals, and information is going to travel down that axon to target cells. This stuff down here is going to be our target cells. Target cells. This is our neuron. Neurotransmitter is released and then can bind to receptors on the target cells. The endocrine system is composed of any endocrine gland. So this is a wide variety of different glands located throughout the body. And what's similar about all of them is they produce hormones. So in this case, we've got some sort of endocrine tissue. All this means is it's going to release, I'm going to change the color of this quickly here, if I can, release hormone into the bloodstream. This hormone can then travel throughout the bloodstream to target organs, target cells that are throughout the body. So this is also for communication. So the similarities are we're regulating, we're sending a signal to other cells somewhere in the body, but this is very diffuse. This is going to travel anywhere that the blood is going, versus the neuron is only traveling to that one specified location. In either case, the target cells need to have receptors on them that bind to the chemical messenger that's released. So the chemical messenger either being the neurotransmitter or the hormone. So let's do a little comparison here. I'd like you to pause the video and compare the nervous and endocrine systems in these ways: by the mode of transmission. So what is the carrier of the transmission? What's the name of the chemical messenger? What's the distribution of the effects? How widespread are the effects? And how quick is the response? So please pause to do this. Okay, first we have mode of transmission. Nervous system, it's neurons. That beautiful picture I just drew for you. We'll go into more detail on neurons and the anatomy of neurons. And for endocrine, it's through the bloodstream. That's how the message is transmitted. The chemical messenger is neurotransmitters for the nervous system, hormones for the endocrine system. Note, some of the same chemical messengers can be used in these two different systems. It's just how they are traveling that determines which one they are. Oops. Neurotransmitters are released from neurons, hormones are released from the bloodstream. So there's different types of each one. The last two here that just came up, distribution of effects for the nervous system is low. That's that neuron specificity where I drew that those terminals of a neuron ending at specific cells, so neuron to neuron or neuron to individual cells, versus the distribution of the endocrine system is high, meaning widespread effects. The effects of endocrine signaling are anywhere in the body that has a receptor for that chemical messenger. So that could be one place or it could be dozens of places throughout the body. Lastly, speed of response. The nervous system is very quick and short lasting, right? So it's one impulse and rapidly done, rapidly over. And then the endocrine response is longer, slower to respond and longer lasting. And again, we'll focus more on this one, but it will make sense eventually why those two are both slower as well as different, how long they last in terms of the effects. Okay, oops, Let's go on to here. All right, so another learning check here on a way for you to compare your understanding of the endocrine and nervous systems. I'd like you to go through for each of these and see if you think the response of each of these is going to be a nervous system response or an endocrine system response. So there are 5 things listed here. I'll go through them one at a time. So if you want to make sure you've done number 1, withdrawing your hand from a hot stove. Nervous system. You want this to be quick and localized. And it is. Sometimes what we want for biology isn't what happens, but for a lot of these things are going to make sense. The nervous responses are going to be things that are very quick and then done. Endocrine systems typically are things that might take longer. So nervous system for that, digesting your breakfast. Endocrine. So there is nervous system that's involved in digestion, but most of the processes are regulated by the endocrine system. This takes longer. That's okay. It's a process that works over hours and then lasts for hours. Vomiting in response to toxic food. This is nervous system. It's actually thought to be the vagus nerve that stimulates a vomiting center in your brain and makes you throw up, which is actually a pretty adaptive response to food that might be toxic. You don't want to wait around for a endocrine response, for a hormone to be traveling. You want this to be something that tells the brain, hey, vomit. Closure of the growth plates in bones. We talked about bones last week. What do you think? Endocrine, definitely a great example. So this is something that takes overdevelopment, right? This is a developmental thing going from the epiphyseal plate to the epiphyseal line. That's what the closure of growth plates is. That's going to be something that takes time. And also it is spread. It's happening in any long bones in the body. So it's not, if you were to do this for a nervous system response, you'd have to have neurons synapsing or talking to every single bone versus having hormones circulating in the bloodstream is a lot more efficient. Lastly, regulation of blood pressure when you stand up. Nervous, again, we want this to be quick. You get a head rush, that response to that, that's a nervous system response that's fairly localized, fairly short lasting, and quick. So what we've done so far here is describe the general functions of the nervous system and compare and contrast the functions of the nervous system to the endocrine system. So the key words for the nervous system especially are neurotransmitters and neurons. Hormones and blood are part of the endocrine system. So again, this is the idea. The function of the nervous system is to quickly respond and regulate body functions. And the rest of these videos will be about more details into that.